Woo-hoo-hoo. Welcome into the Bold Sports Show. This is going to be kind of a different little episode. I'm really just filming a bunch of little videos, but you get to get a live performance for it. So I hope you sit back and enjoy. And when if you see me introduce a new show, just know this is almost like a next chapter or something. It's the best way to look at it, I'd say. All right, let's kick this off. We're kicking this off. There we go. This is the Bold Drunks, where we give you whiskey and sports advice. First review will be Penelope Weeded. As you can see, I've already given this bottle quite a bit of a chance. We're really trying to see what we can get out of it. And I've got a lot of fillings on this bottle. A lot of whiskey YouTubers, highly recommend this bottle. They say this is the one to watch. This is the one to drink. Penelope Weeded. I'll give you my thoughts. This is a $35 bottle from Penelope. I was actually looking for Penelope Weeded when I found this one, and I couldn't find the Rio, so I went with this one. And I gotta say, as someone that's drinking a lot of cheap whiskey in my life, this is it. That's what you're seeing here. We done seen a cheap whiskey. This bad boy is not worth $35. Some people will argue with me. They'll be like, "Oh, you're talking crazy. It's not worth $35 so much. The manufacturer gave me a $10 rebate, so it's only $25. So even at $25, I'll let you know that if this bottle was in a bottle that was in plastic, I can't argue that you would taste the difference. You wouldn't be surprised. You'd be like, yeah, this is a plastic bottle of whiskey. Now, if you can't tell by looking, I'm drinking plenty of plastic whiskeys in my life. There's been a lot of plastic bottles that I've knocked down. I've probably done 5 gallons of Windsor by itself. Your boy knows cheap whiskey when he tastes it, and that's what we're getting out of this Penelope bottle. Now, another fun fact about this Penelope bottle, I probably got 30 bottles of whiskey on the shelf, and this is the tallest bottle that I own. It's an old trick from distilleries. The reason you make tall bottles is so it can't end up on the bottom shelf where it belongs. And that's what we've gotten from old Penelope here. Now, I do want to try Penelope Rio still, and I'm going to give the Penelope Barrel Strength a shot. Now, this is pretty crazy, and if you hear a lot of background noise, please just know that I am in Florida, and that's what we do here. Get a bunch of crazy noise. Now, with this Bold Drunks whiskey review, don't forget I do give you a sports lock of the season for the NFL. So for the 2025 NFL season, your number one lock is going to be the Saints to miss the playoffs at a minus 900. This is going to give you a 10% return on your money, probably better than what the S&P 500 is going to do this year. Who knows the way it's been? So that's going to be, it's a long time to sit on a bet for minus 900, but guaranteed money. There's not a chance in God's green earth the Saints make the playoffs. And look, you can go back to last year's tapes. All my locks hit. My season-long locks all hit. Did not miss a single one. Guaranteed money. And guaranteed I need to get that $10 from Penelope, because this definitely ain't a $35 whiskey. But let me know in the comments, have you tried Penelope? Which one you going for? How you feeling? Let me know. Your boy is curious. Curious. Oh, man, talk about a wild little start there. It's really just It's just not there for me. A lot of people like it. Came highly reviewed. There's just too many other whiskeys at that price point that I would buy before this one. I'll give it that much. And I'll be honest to you, a little breathing to the bottle has helped it, but it ain't cured its problem just yet. It ain't there for me. Oh well, it happens. You drink some, you lose some. It's fun to try. Fun to give it a little whirl there. Let's talk about the old NFL. We got a lot of things popping. Tyreek Hill was asked today why he's assured we won't see a repeat of last season's antics. And his reply was, well, for one, shoot, I'm doing more, I'm going to church more, I'm doing more therapy. Like, come on, bro. Who are you trying to fool? Like, what are we doing here? What are we even talking about? Tyreek Hill will always be one of my favorite players. So shout out to old T Hill for, trying to get his stuff together. Father of probably about 12 kids now. He's well on his way to creating a dynasty of children all by himself, all in South Florida. It's getting to the point in South Florida you're probably going to need to make sure you're not related to Tyreek Hill before you start dating someone. Where he's starting to do a little takeover kind of situation. It's kind of interesting. It reminds me of Antonio Cromartie, but he at least tried to quit. Or Phillip Rivers, at least. Yeah, I think he's got old Phillip Rivers beat, if we're going to be honest. Patriots wide receiver Stephon Diggs was not present for today's voluntary OTA. One day after a video of the wide receiver surfaced on social media in which he was on a boat and flashed an unidentified pink substance while surrounded by 3 women. So basically, he's out partying, not doing voluntary OTAs. Now, when you got a guy coming to a new team, you want to see him participate, right? But as a older veteran, kind of like Stephon Diggs, this isn't a super surprise from him. But, again, you like to see him, but it's voluntary. That is the key word there. Does he need to be there? No. Does he have to be there? No. Was he there? Right? You ain't finding him. It's crazy to think about. Fun little factoid here. Let's get a little fun fact for all the Lamar Jackson haters out there. I know there's a lot of loud and proud little fanboys of them or whatnot. Lamar Jackson is the only quarterback in NFL history to post 5,000 plus total yards and 45 total touchdowns and fewer than 5 interceptions. Sheesh, that is a heck of a stat line. And if you think about it, that 5,000 total yards is that's elite as it gets, man. It's hard to have a 5,000 yard season, period. Through the air plus ground, it's just how many quarterbacks even sniffed 5,000 yards last season? There's maybe him. I think maybe Allen probably got there. I don't think Pat Mahomes got there. He didn't rush for nearly that kind of yardage. Pretty sure even Jaden Daniels was short of that. It's hard it's a big number. Rushing helps a bit, but man, it ain't gonna solve for everything. Let's see what's another little fun little storyline. Let's see. Let's rewind it. I know I'm talking about current topics where it's like this week and whatnot. But let's talk about, let's rewind this preseason just a little bit, because it's been a banger. There's been a lot going on. I mean, we could really need to talk about Travis Hunter going to the Jaguars. I like that opportunity for him. Shout out to him. He did get married. You always like to see dudes be happy and whatnot in the league. So shout out to him for that. Let me see. Oh, another fun factoid. Chicago got a Pope before getting a 4,000-yard passer. And really, with all the hype of Caleb Williams, you would think that era would have finally ended in Chicago, but you find out he really didn't even want to end up there. Like, it's nobody wants to be in Chicago. And that's the problem. One of the problems with Chicago, you got to figure out what's going on there. It's 4,000 yards is not a crazy benchmark. All time, we're talking all time you can't get this done. Like, how do you accomplish a Super Bowl in the quarterback passing era if you cannot sniff 4,000 yards? Like, it's just a depression. And they keep throwing darts. You can't really blame it on them. Caleb Williams is supposed to be the quarterback lock of the century, even though we told you it was Jaden Daniels. But it can't get any more clear than that. This quarterback draft class was even worse. You have one good quarterback come out of there. It'll be interesting to see. I'm really interested to see the Raiders picked up a guy real late in the draft, and it'll be interesting to see what he turns out to be. The old Tom Brady pick there, passing on Shadir Sanders. With plenty of rounds, could have got Shadir with a third. And you really got to wonder with the Saints, what I don't understand. Let's take a moment now that the time has passed a little bit. When we look at the Shadir Sanders situation and how wild it absolutely was. So we've got a quarterback that is rumored to be a top 10 pick. No question about it, type top 10 pick. That's what we know, what we're supposed to be getting out of Shadir Sanders. A top 10 quality quarterback. Or, questionable. But if you look at the talent of quarterbacks in this year's draft class, you might not have a first-round talent grade on Shadir Sanders. You can make that argument. I'll listen to it. I'll entertain it. But the argument that I would want to hear and have someone try to prove me wrong is you're trying to tell me Shadir Sanders wasn't a top 3 or 4 quarterback prospect in this year's draft. Those guys that they drafted were better than him. Even Cleveland drafted a worse quarterback ahead of Shadir Sanders. It was a message from the league. Some people will spout racism, and it's not that. The first overall pick was a black quarterback. Like, you can't sprout out racism for that. That's not what it is. It's Shadir Sanders tried to dictate what he was going to do in the NFL. He said, I'm not going here. I don't want to go there. His dad trash talked the Browns. Cash money trash talked him. Who hurt feelings type trashed him. That's what was going on. That was what was going on with Shadir Sanders and the Cleveland Browns. That's what was going on around the league. Like the Giants, he wasn't trying to go into a garbage Giants situation. Even the Raiders, he probably had question marks around it. Like, can you blame him? Like, you see the Tom Brady connection, but that's not enough to save him. And you really got to kind of wonder why. Like, you can't tell me that Tom Brady's not looking there or at least talking to someone in the ear like, hey, it's the third round, bro. It's the third round, and we got Shadir Sanders. You know how cheap of a rookie quarterback contract that is? No. Don't you ain't rolling that dice, are you? No. That's not what we're doing. And the Saints are what really blow my mind. They decided they didn't want to risk winning games. The Saints said there's not a chance in heck I'm risking winning 5 games this year. That's not what we're doing. We're winning 2 games. We're winning 1 game. We're winning whatever amount of games it takes to be the number 1 overall pick next year. We like the quarterbacks in next year's draft more than what we're seeing out of Shadir Sanders. And listen, hey, can't blame them. What do you know, if that's your call, that's your pick, that's what we're going with. We can't do nothing more about it. But I struggle with the philosophy of it. I struggle with the whole theory and mindset about it. Like, is that really what we're going to do today? Is that really what's going on? I don't think so. Like, the Shadir should have been drafted in the 2nd round, or possibly, even if you want to teach him a lesson, there's too many teams that needed a quarterback that did not solve that problem. You know who solved that problem? The Tennessee Titans, probably, maybe. I don't know if they have the team and coaching staff around them to be successful, but they're throwing the correct dart at it. Okay, I'm not scared of what they're doing. Okay, it should be an improvement. And look, we've seen it with Jaden Daniels. 1 year can completely turn that on its head. You can change that whole situation. Jaden Daniels alone. That's how drastic the quarterback. Jaden Daniels is the def. Look, we need to start fresh on this whole little topic. Jaden Daniels is the reason you have a textbook example of why the quarterback is the MVP every season. Why a quarterback is the make or break reason out of all the positions on the field, whether your team's going to be good or whether your team's going to be bad. Look, you could even take it as a homer from Pat Mahomes. He can carry a bad team to a Super Bowl. He can't carry, an injured, banged up team to a Super Bowl victory. It's not going to happen, but it's going to make you competitive. You've seen it with Alex Smith and Andy Reid. They brought in a competent quarterback, competent coach, bam, success. You're making the playoffs. Black and white. Jaden Daniels gave a clear print of that. The Washington Commanders were a feisty team. Don't get it mistaken. They were feisty. They had a lot of great pieces like Terry McLaurin, who we told you last year as fantasy quarterback or wide receiver number 20 was the steal. One of those little fantasy football advices we ended up talking about, because the team was loaded with talent and they finally had a quarterback. The writing was on the wall. They got lucky. They didn't have to get stuck with Caleb Williams. They got Jaden Daniels. Like, let's call a spade, and it is what it is. Like, it's nice to see. Like, it's what you want to see a franchise get correct. Now, teams like the Browns will attempt to do this. They'll throw darts all over the board at quarterback. The list of quarterbacks that have gone to Cleveland and failed is a disastrous waste of first picks all up and down that board. And they tried to solve that problem with Deshaun Watson. Wasn't happening. You couldn't convince that to be nothing. Like, shout out to them for trying, though. Penelope. Back to tasting like cheap whiskey. Good golly, Miss Molly. It's just not it. And I do wonder if that Penelope review is going to upset some folks, but if you ask me on Trash or Pass, I just think there's too many I'm going to buy over it. I'm going to try the barrel strength. Maybe that'll change my mind. Maybe that'll give me some hope. Some wishes and some dreams. Let me see. Oh, you know what we could do real quick while we're at it, since nobody is actually watching live. And I'm not sure why. Probably because we quit being consistent. You know, you quit doing things and things quit happening. Story of my life. Let's go other way. Bam. Bam. We can deal with that. We can deal with that. Let's record some picks. We get some preseason picks in. And sorry if this is confusing y'all, but I am just recording little segments. And I think doing a few picks will be cool to be able to put out tomorrow as well. We start flooding some videos. And it will be this just choppered up. I think we're going to do the Eagles. Let's get the old Eagles in here. All right, here we go. Bam. All right, let's get the Eagles win-loss prediction. Here we go. Week 1, opening the season against the Cowboys. That's going to be a win. Week 2 against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's going to be a win. Hold on, let's get the Eagles 2025 win, loss, Vegas odds. I always like to know what's Vegas? What's Vegas got? We like to 11.5. All right, let's try this one more again. Here we go. We got the Eagles, week 1. Cowboys. Oh, here we go. Let's try. Let me redo my little intro. All right, here we go. We're doing the Eagles 2025 seasons. All right, let's scrap the intro. Let's just do it all natural. All natural here. Here we go. All right, we got week 1, opening the season against the Cowboys. We're going to give the win to the Eagles. Week 2, going to Kansas City, where the Eagles will get a win. Week 3, we have the Rams going to the Eagles, where the Rams will lose. Week 4, we got the Eagles, or this is going to be week 5. We got the Eagles and the Buccaneers for a win. Eagles versus the Broncos is going to be a loss. This is going to be your first upset. You're going to be confused why you lost to them. Eagles versus the Giants is the lock of the week or lock of the schedule. Eagles versus Vikings. I'm going to say win for the Eagles. Another win over the Giants. Eagles versus Packers. I'm going to go Eagles. Lions versus Eagles. I'm going to go Lions for the win. Eagles versus Cowboys. That's going to be a win. Bears versus Eagles. That's going to be an Eagles win. Eagles versus Chargers is going to be an Eagles win. Raiders versus Chargers, or Raiders versus Eagles. I don't know how I messed that up. It's going to be a win. We got the Eagles versus Commanders. That's going to be a loss. Eagles versus Bills. That's going to be a loss. Eagles versus Commanders again. I'm going to say that's a loss because it's the last week they're going to purposely sit. That puts them at a 12-5 record. So that does make Vegas pretty close. They have over of 11.5. I'm going to bet the over. I think they win more than 11 games. To win the NFC East is minus 135. The NFC East is a little risky. The only competition is the Commanders, and I do think they probably beat out the Commanders, but I probably won't bet that. To win the Super Bowl plus 650, I do believe that is the best odds. To earn the NFC number 1 seed is a plus 330. Not enough juice for the squeeze. To have the best regular season record plus 750, I think that's probably not in play. They could pick up a couple wins over what I was picking, so they could put them in the 14 range. It would make them in the argument. To have the worst regular season record would be a plus 30,000, and that is a terrible bet to make. So those are going to be your Eagles win-loss predictions. Let's see what they can end up doing. All right, let's do one more. Let's do Bills. I want to see the Buffalo Bills. Let's see, old Buffalo. What you got on Buffalo? All right. Let me get it all set up here. A little back. Change up the teams. Get the old Buffalo Bills. Skip the preseason because the only thing in the preseason that's worth watching is me. And yet nobody is. How about that? Always fun. Shout it out. All right. Well, scroll too far. We're getting into wins and losses. All right, here we go. All right. To open up week 1, the Bills have what has to be the game of the week. We have the Ravens versus the Bills, where the Ravens will upset the Bills. Week 2, we have the Bills versus the Jets, where they get an easy rebound win. Week 3, we have the Dolphins versus the Bills. This is unfortunate for Buffalo because it's in September, not December. Give me a win for the Fins. Next week after that, they have the Saints versus the Bills. This will be the #1 lock of the Bills win season. Take it to the bank. Bet the house on the Bills over the Saints. You can do it right now. Place the bet right now. The odds will not get better. I promise you that much. Next week, you have the Patriots versus the Bills. The Patriots will put up more of a fight than they did last year, still lose to the Bills. Bills versus the Falcons. Falcons will be a fun matchup, but still lose to the Bills. Bills play the Panthers. Will we see a repeat of the Panthers' success that they had last year? Probably not. If you want to even call that success, give me the Bills. Chiefs versus the Bills. Bills win. It's the regular season. Bills versus Dolphins in Miami in November. Not late enough in the season to give the Bills a heat stroke. The Bills pull off the win. Buccaneers versus the Bills. Even though old Baker Mayfield throws a lot of touchdowns, it will not be enough to beat the Buffalo Bills. Bills versus the Texans. The Texans pull off the upset. The Texans, C.J. Stroud, get the upset over the Bills. The Bills will be favored in that game. Bills versus Steelers. Bills get that win. Bengals versus Bills. December 7th game. The Bengals, maybe they'll be backfiring, but they'll be trying to look for a playoff spot, even though they're out of the playoffs, and the Bills beat them to help be one of the reasons why the Bengals couldn't make the playoffs. Again. That's right. Again. Bills versus Patriots. Bills win again. Bills versus Browns. Be interested to see who's playing quarterback for the Browns December 21st. Still an easy win for the Bills. Eagles versus Bills. Let's go Eagles. And the last game of the week or season is going to be the Jets versus the Bills. And I think the Bills sit players. This one could mess up your season total bet here. Your win over under is going to be 11.5. 11.5, which means if they ended up losing just because they bench people, that's a bad beat. But I also think they could win one of the 4 games I think they lose. So they could easily be closer to 13-3. But they could lose to the Chiefs too, and then suddenly you got that 5th loss that you need. Well, I got to put you at 12-5. You got plenty of comfort room here. You're sitting at 13-4 anyways. What am I thinking? Yeah, you got plenty of room on this bet. I will be placing a bet on 11.5 or on the over of 11.5. That feels very safe and comfortable. The Bills are the only team favored in all 17 games. They are projected to win the AFC East. I agree with that. That's another lock. Josh Allen, the Bills quarterback, is a strong factor in the home field advantage. Yeah. And they have a relatively easy schedule. Mostly. They have a couple bangers. There is a couple bangers. Like, let's look at the tough matchups. Let's do a quick recap before we end this video. The Ravens is tough. Miami early might be tough, but that's questionable. Chiefs will be tough. Texans are tough. Bengals might be a fight. The Eagles. You got 5 hard games the whole season. So that just lets you know where you're sitting at. Even if you lost all the hard games, you win the over. So shout out to Bills Mafia. Hope you get it done. This has been the Bold Sports Show. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Catch y'all on the next one.